Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's council meeting. It's going to be a hot topic. We'll call the meeting to order. And before we start, we'll read the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We'd also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We'll have a moment of silent reflection and then we'll stand for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you. Adoption of agenda, that the July 12th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Meloche, support by Councillor Dicho Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, that'll be noted in the minutes. I should state that Mr. Councillor Carrick had a emergency this evening and couldn't attend tonight's council meeting. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting held June 28th, 2022 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Reno, Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Mayor's comments. Nothing tonight other than enjoy the summer. Everybody's off. Okay, we have Paul Wilson, President of LaSalle Friendship Club, appearing before council to present a check as a thank you for the use of town facilities. Mr. Wilson. Do you want to push the red button, please? And the people in the viewing audience can't hear you on YouTube without the speaker.
On behalf of the LaSalle Friendship Club, we're making this small donation to the town for your support in the past years. Okay, we appreciate the use of the room and all the help you've given us through your staff. And sincerely, Paul Wilson, President of the LaSalle Friendship Club.
$5,000. No, thank you. Thank you, he left, but it's nice to be acknowledged. We don't do it for any monetary recognition, but it's nice that they appreciate the space we do give them. We have a meeting to consider the engineer's report for the Lapine Drain. Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. Before you tonight, we have the final report for the minor improvements to the Lapine Drain. This is for work within the Silverleaf development. So we're before council requesting the council adopt the report and approve the bylaw. And I believe Mr. Edmonds from Dillon Consulting is on, and he can provide a bit of information on the drainage report.
Welcome, Mr. Edmonds.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Much like Mr. Osborne had presented, we're in agreement with the administration's report. And this report for the Lapine Drain is a relocation of the existing Lapine Drain to support the development of the Silverleaf subdivision, which we have planned for construction in the near future. It's 90 lots that we're going to be creating, single detached and semi-detached homes within the development. But like we said, to facilitate this, we had to first go through and relocate the drain. So we applied for minor drainage improvements through the Drainage Act, and as part of the process, we followed through, had a site meeting, had our engineer's report prepared, and now presented here to council for bylaw and future construction. I'm available for any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much. Administration, anything to add? Members of council? Nothing? Okay. So moved by Councillor Reno and supported by Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to item H number 1, naming of waterfront. We have, yeah, so I'm just going to find it in his book here where his delegations are. Thank you very much. So we're going to start with our delegations this evening. And if we could have Shelley Moore, Susan Moore, and Roland Moore come forward. And if we could have you turn the microphones on, state your name and addresses, please.
Oh, there we go. A police escorted chair. Well done. Okay, welcome Moore family. We'll be discussing the naming of the waterfront. We'll start with the Moores and we give you 5 minutes each, and then we'll go to administration for their report. Okay, thank you. You want to just state your name when you speak for the record, please?
My name is Rolly Moore, and good evening. The Moore family roots go back over 100 years at this location. The name Gilmore Park is recognized by the majority of people living in LaSalle and throughout Essex County. The Strawberry Festival, car shows, fishing derbies, and many other events are partnered with the Gilmore Park. The sections of properties make up Gilmore Park that were acquired by the town make up a park that was meant for all LaSalle residents to use for play, family outings, or just relaxing in a nice, quiet, serene setting overlooking the river. The town graciously dedicated the park in memory of Gilbert Moore those many years ago. Council should realize they do have an obligation to keep a dedicated park name, as John Dupee Park is. The letter from Ms. Hadre informing us the intent to change the name gave us only 4.5 working days to submit to council our objections. The town's plan to remove the name and stick a plaque over a boardroom in a new unnamed event center is disappointing and demeaning, to say the least, for the family. That is the alternative that was given to us by administration. That doesn't give us much time to mount a defense for the Gilmore Park name, but I suspect that was your intent. The letter from administration dated July 5th, 1994, to the Moore family clearly states, and I quote, "Please be informed that at their meeting of July 5th, 1994, the Town of LaSalle Council further considered the original request to rename the Front Road Park in memory of Mr. Gilbert Moore. As a result of their discussions and in consideration of the recommendations submitted by the Parks and Recreation Board, the members passed a resolution renaming Front Road Park to the Gilmore Park," end quote. From that day forward, Front Road Park does not exist, therefore expanding the footprint of Gilmore Park substantially. The 2050 vision must also have a root history, and we feel the name Gilmore Park should remain just that, Gilmore Park, as it has been known for decades. Administration claims it needs history. Petitcoat is historic. That may be, but it doesn't relate to LaSalle residents, where Gilmore Park has a physical history now and relates now to the people. The Moore family name is positive and respected throughout the town, yet I sit here trying to defend it. My grandfather, Gilbert Moore, was an honest and humble man who farmed the land where Gilmore Park is now from the early 1900s. He raised 9 children, and at the times, like most people, struggled to feed their family. The boys hunted and fished for food and for recreation. Gilbert was a hardworking French Canadian whose homestead was one of the originals in LaSalle. What more history do we need? Administration claims it needs a French heritage. The name Moore comes from a town in France that dates back to the 1700s. Different businesses and clothiers throughout Europe carry the Moore name, which translates to Star of the Sea. How French is that? Some councillors feel the name may deter businesses and corporate donations. Many parks with person or person's name in Ontario thrive quite well with corporate donations for naming rights, businesses, restaurants, and other retail shops within the park's parameters. A name change will not assist in acquiring these amenities. The quality of the park itself will. The family requests council keep and embrace the name of Gilmore Park. It is what we're here and trying to do today. We would like to thank all family, friends, citizens of LaSalle, and those who sent emails to the town for taking their time to support us tonight. And we hope our presentations do not fall on deaf ears tonight. Thank you.
My name is Shelley Moore, and I am the granddaughter of Gilmore. I would like to start by saying that I felt very frustrated and confused when I received an email from the town saying the process has begun to remove the Gilmore name park from the park situated on Front Road, and a meeting is being held for the council to endorse a new name. At first, I felt very disheartened, then became angry as the Moore family has not been advised why. Historically, when an individual's name is removed from a public park, plaque, street sign, etc., it's because something controversial or contentious was discovered from their past or present. This is not the case in this situation, but in conversations with other individuals in the community, their first reaction is also, why is this happening and what went wrong? And we should not have to defend our name in this way. When we first noticed back in 2017, that the sign at Gilmore Park was not updated to the new signage that was completed on the other parks, we approached the town to find out why. We were advised that it's a large project and it will take time to complete all the parks and to be patient. Several months later, we asked for an update and was advised that the town is beginning a new water park project and was not sure where the new signage would be located and didn't want to incur any extra costs in later needing to move it. In 2018, we were following up on a rumor that Gilmore Park was going to be renamed. So I contacted Mayor Antaya again. His comment to us, and I quote, "Where did we say anywhere that the Gilmore name was being removed? And when did we say the Gilmore name would not be attached to the existing park? I informed you the Gilmore name would remain, but there may be some changes in other parts of the recreation area to attend to other groups or individuals' contributions to that area, unquote. We then followed up with Mayor Bondi in March 2019, who advised ongoing work was continuing on the waterfront project and didn't have any further updates at that time. I trusted the feedback our family received from the council members, but I've come to understand that the upgrades to the waterfront property and removal of Gilmore name from the park had already been in process. There was no further formal correspondence until this past June 30th, when we received the town's renaming email. The email mentions the administration determined that one name is the best option for the new waterfront property, so it would not be confusing. What is more confusing than removing the Gilmore name from the existing park that had been in the community for over 28 years, and also having the name Petite Côte already being used at another location in LaSalle? It also mentions that the change of name in no way diminishes the contribution that Gilmore made to the LaSalle community. That may be easy to say, but it certainly does. I would like to ask the council to put themselves in our shoes, thinking about a loved one in their family receiving an honor the same as Gilmore, only to have the name taken down and thrown away years later. I also wonder, when it comes down to it, if the name on the waterfront property really does make a difference to administration or council. I believe that when you go to your homes tonight, you have plenty of things in your life with your family and friends that are more important to consider. And the last thing on your mind may be Gilmore Park. But I can assure you that it will be the only thing on my mind, and surely many of Gilbert's friends, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and even great-great-great-grandchildren. In the media recently, Mayor Bondi advised the town wants the word waterfront attached to the name, and that longstanding LaSalle residents and new residents or travelers will know where this destination is. He also wants a compromise to be found with the Moore family. Here's a simple solution: Gilmore Park waterfront. You can't argue with that. My request is to ask the council to honor your previous council members' approvals, and please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Moore, and I'm the granddaughter of Gilbert Moore. I'm here to address council on something near and dear to me, my family, relatives, and I believe this community: the removal of the Gilmore Park name. Reading the many emails that were sent, most started with saying how exciting this project will be to our community, and I had the same sentiments as well. But as I was preparing my presentation, I thought, how can I be excited about this plan knowing it's going to strip away the name of my grandfather from the history of LaSalle? How administration so callously is going about this is both wrong on every level, but extremely insulting to our family. I would like to remind council that it was the town that approached the family in 1980 to obtain their portion of sold and donated land to complete what is the park today. They agreed. And after that, my father, Roland Moore, requested that the entire area be named after Gilbert Moore, which the town endorsed. Is it a coincidence that the removal of Gilmore Park is being presented within 6 months of the last 2 surviving children's death? I would like to believe it is, but the way this town has treated any requests about this park in the past, I am more inclined to say a resounding no. I believe that the administration thought the family would just turn the other way and let it go. I would like to address the council members and ask if they can honestly sit there and look at the family members in attendance and say they didn't know well in advance that this endorsing of Petite Côte waterfront would remove the name Gilmore Park, or that the administration in charge of this project didn't know several years ago that they would be requesting the removal of the Gilmore Park name. This endorsement was to be addressed on a previous agenda, but then someone realized the Moore family wasn't notified and they had to change it to this date. Really? After all this time and all the ample opportunities, the town forgot to tell the Moores? if the administration would have owned up to this back then, they could have easily spoken to my father and aunt to resolve, and as they are saying, present a compromise, that they would have left responsibility of this decision to the individuals who should have had this right and been able to tell you firsthand what transpired between the town and the family. How many times can the town say changes are being made or we are working on it, when all you are really saying is, I don't want to deal with you? Mayor Bondi, in one of your interviews, you indicated that if a park that was named after your grandfather was changed, that it would be very upsetting. Yet how easily you've put our family in that position. I realize that council will base their decision on what they deem is best for our town, but isn't an already established name attached to a location not a drawing card? How long will it be until people know where Petite Côte waterfront is when Gilmore Park has had 28 years to have this recognition? I can only hope that this rally, which we have been forced to start, is not just an empty gesture falling on deaf ears, but I'm asking the members to take the time that this matter deserves, leaving Gilmore Park, Gilmore Park. The town surely wasn't in a hurry to tell the family they were removing the name. Why are they in such a hurry to rename it now? Thank you.
You don't have to move. You can stay there. Ms. Hodry is going to give administration's report and then we'll open up for questions. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Mayor Bondi and members of council, I wanted to give you some background information about our recommendation for the naming of the waterfront park. With the development of the waterfront district, we are changing the landscape along Front Road. Lot lines that existed between privately owned land, Front Road Park, and Gilmore Park will cease to exist. This almost 60-acre property will become a community hub, a meeting place, and a destination in LaSalle. We're not talking about simply renaming a park, but rather are naming a new waterfront development, and the magnitude of this development deserves a new name that promotes the destination that it will become. The Small Coast Waterfront Project was presented to the community in 2020. At that time, a consultation process was held through PlaceSpeak online, and several comments were received in response to the amenities, the name, and the overall plan. The project was introduced as Small Coast, which is a loose translation of Petite Côte. There was concern that there would be confusion for visitors with the Petite Côte Conservation Area, also located on Front Road. But in discussions with IRCA and between members of administration, it's been determined that similar names will not cause confusion as the sites offer very different amenities and activities. In the consultation process, a handful of comments were received about the name with a similar theme: to preserve our French-Canadian heritage by naming the waterfront Petite Côte. One of the goals of the waterfront project is to create an authentic space that captures the rich history and culture of LaSalle, showcasing our three cultures: Indigenous, French, and English. To meet this goal, administration has been researching the history of LaSalle. One of the things that stands out most is the cultural significance that Petite Côte holds in this region. Some interesting facts about Petite Côte. Located along the Detroit River from River Canard to the Ambassador Bridge, that land would become French strip farms in 1749. Part of an ancient network of Indian paths, the Great Sauk Trail, as it came to be known, extended from present-day Illinois to the Detroit River. That trail traveled through LaSalle, ending in Amherstburg. Petite Côte is the oldest continuous European settlement in Ontario, which would later become the original town of LaSalle in 1924. The first road in Ontario was laid out in Petite Côte. It was known as King's Highway number 18 until 1997 and is now known as County Road 20. By naming the waterfront Petite Côte, we are taking the first step to embracing our heritage and culture. Throughout the last week, administration has been told that we are erasing history. This is opposite of our intentions. We appreciate that the Moore family is a part of our history, as are many others. Choosing Petite Côte is a tribute to the original community of this area. Without question, this honors LaSalle's history. As outlined in the Parks Master Plan, it's important to identify the waterfront with one name. Currently, there are 3 names within the waterfront: Front Road Park, Gilmore Park, and Riverdance. In 1994, LaSalle Council approved the Morris family request to name a portion of land on Front Road as Gilmore Park, believing that land had been donated years earlier. Records indicate that land was not donated, but was purchased by the town at fair market value. When making that decision to name the park in 1994, that council would never have envisioned what the Council of 2020 has initiated with this waterfront project. We understand that it is important to honor Mr. Moore and his contributions to our community. Administration has suggested that the community room in the event center be named after Mr. Moore. This was chosen as it is the first amenity that will open on the waterfront and is scheduled to open in the coming weeks. Naming the room after the Moore family would allow us to have the recognition in place for the grand opening of the building. We have heard that this is not suitable to the Moore family, and we are of course open to discussing other options for naming within the waterfront. We do ask that you please keep in mind that in addition to the Moore family, there are several others to be recognized at the waterfront as they have made contributions to the area over the years. The LaSalle Youth Center, the University of Windsor, and the Nihon family. There are also 10 separate owners of the land acquired that now make up the waterfront property, and perhaps some acknowledgement may be appropriate, and some has been requested from other families. Through consultation, we've also been asked to consider acknowledgement of the Shepu family, as well as the first Japanese-Canadian family to live in Sandwich West Township. Not to mention, of course, Vital Benoit, who helped to develop the original town of LaSalle, was its first mayor, and is credited with the construction of buildings that still exist on Front Road. We are working on a plan to incorporate this history into the waterfront because we understand that each and every one has contributed to making LaSalle, LaSalle. We do understand that there is question from council about the name Petite Côte and providing other naming options. Administration cautions this approach as the waterfront is already being identified by the public as Small Coast, as it was introduced that way 2 years ago. This is an opportune time to transition from Small Coast to Petite Côte.
Don, let me interrupt. Someone's talking while you're talking. No one spoke when the Moore spoke, so we ask for the same respect. If not, you'll be asked to leave. You don't have to leave, but just as long as you're quiet. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. We do understand that there is questions from council about the name Petite Côte and providing other naming options. Administration cautions this approach as the waterfront is already being identified by the public as Small Coast, as it was introduced that way 2 years ago. This is an opportune time to transition from Small Coast to Petite Côte. If we delay the naming, the event center will be opened without an official name, and any name used in the interim will create more confusion. Based on what we have learned, we are continuing with our recommendation to use the name Petite Côte Waterfront. We know that we can build on this history as we develop and promote our waterfront destination. We will take direction from council about the naming of the waterfront, alternative recognition for the Moore family if the community room is not appropriate, and our work with the Moore family to identify a proper recognition. I am available to take questions, as are other members of administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. We'll open it up to council questions. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. First, I want to start off by offering my condolences to the Moore family. It's been brought to our attention that you've lost loved ones in the past few months, and I was unaware, as I'm sure administration was, when this item was put on the agenda. So I am sorry for your loss. I've read all of the submissions, the 96 pages worth, the administration report, and I've also done some of my own research, and it's still really unclear what was purchased and what was donated. The records show that the town purchased the land. It's the same as we purchased the Tans land, the Siri land, the Dolan land. Oh my gosh, I can't even think of the other ones. Bird, thank you very much. So in the similar nature. I understand we've purchased it, but that being said, I do know that the town made an agreement with the Moore family. And I don't know the details or why it was agreed upon or what the terms were. But at the end, none of that matters. We made a promise to your family that we would acknowledge you somewhere in that park. And it was, I believe I'm incorrect. Is it 6 acres or is it 3.98? I keep seeing two numbers. It is 3. So the 3 acres of land were originally honored for Gilmore. And I do believe that that is still important and that history gives us a sense of identity and meaning. And I'm not lost on that, and neither is anyone else on council. But we also need to remember what was just presented to us is that several other families as well as community groups have donated large sums to make that waterfront what it is today. And we need to make sure that we give them the same recognition and honor that we're going to give to the Moore family. I 100% agree with you. The room is not an appropriate substitution. The naming of a room inside the building isn't right. I also agree with administration in the fact that we need a name for the entire waterfront project. And if we name it Gilmore Park, we've now ignored everyone else who was given to that waterfront. So we need to come up with something that allows us to acknowledge everyone. And as we know, it's almost 60 acres of land that is now there and part of this great project that we're bringing to our municipality. I believe that we can come up with an agreement with your family and administration where we would still properly honor your family. I was speaking with one of your relatives, and it was actually their recommendation that possibly we could name a large feature in the park, whether it was, I believe actually they recommended the boat launch, saying your family were and grandfather were very avid fishermen. And that is something that's there today and that we could name immediately in your honor when that event center opens, and that would be there and present. That would be a suggestion I would put forward to you, but I would like that discussion to be open between you and administration to come up with something that's fair, because like I said, I do not believe the sign in a room is a fair acknowledgement of your family. As far as the name put forth by administration, I know it was put forth a couple years ago, and I know we went kind of to community in our what's it called, the Play Speaks, and it was brought to us that some people wanted that name. I don't love the name. I've sat there, I've listened to radio interviews these past few weeks, and no one pronounces it correctly. And that's going to be a very hard thing for us to promote as a tourist area when our tourists want to come to us and they have no idea how to say where they're going. So I really believe that we have really one chance to do this right. And I would love to be able to get public input. And I would like to propose that we open it to the public for 45 to 60 days to allow each member, one per each person, one submission of a name for our waterfront, which would then go to administration, and administration would vet the names to be sure that they're historically accurate, that they're not offensive or anything else. And we could come up with a list of top 3 to 5 names, which we could present and then have council do a final vote to name that property. And the reason I do 45 to 60 days is I do acknowledge the fact that we are hoping to launch the event center within the next couple months. And I do realize how important it is to start getting one name out there for everyone to understand. I don't know if that is something the Moore family is willing to consider, something like that in the park. I would hope we can come to an understanding and agreement together. But I think it's just really important that we all acknowledge the fact that there are so many families who have given the land to that front road water park area that we really need to make sure that we do this right and represent everybody in that area.
Thank you. I'll recognize Shelley and Rolly after Mr. Jarley asks her question, then we'll come back. Okay, Shelley?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. It sounds like the deputy mayor and I have had our brains going in the same direction for the last few days. It's been a lot of reading about what's going on in the community, and it's a lot to take in. First of all, I agree with the petite coat. We already have a petite coat. We have one down the road at the conservation area, and that's fine. We can dig petite coat into the history somewhere along the line. However, at the last council meeting, I did ask for a report to bring it forward to the public. When I've talked to residents, they like the fact that we invite them to have a say in what we're doing in the community. I'm here to represent 33,000 people. And I need to do that the best way I can. And if asking them for their input is going to help, then that's what I'm going to do. And if we put it out to, I said 45 days to get the public involved and get it back to administration, and then council can say out of the top 3 names, pick one and go from there. And then there are other families that have been involved with the whole waterfront area. And I'd like to see each of the things that we're doing down there. For instance, the fishing dock. We're going to have a skating area down there. We're going to have some nice bridges connecting the canals. Let's put some family names on those and recognize the families that help make that waterfront what it is today. I understand that the Moors are very, there's a lot of Moors that have reached out to us to talk about it. And I understand what you're saying, but I think we need to be fair to other families that have put stuff forward, who have also put forward their land, excuse me, and that we're all working together on this. And that's where my thought process is. And I think we can make it work if we can work together. I don't think anybody has to get too wound up about it, because we're all human beings. We all can work together to make things come forward. And I think that that's what I'd like to see happen with the naming of the waterfront, is that we do put it out to the public over the next 45 days, and we'll come up with another name, and then we'll name different parts of the waterfront park for the different families that have been involved. So that's my 2 cents.
What we'll do is we'll recognize, I think you had a couple questions, the 3 of you. So we'll open it up. I just want to reiterate what Deputy Mayor Meloche said. I've lived here my whole life and I know your family. I did not know family members had passed, so our condolences. You have some points you want to make?
Personally, I just wanted to say in front of all our family that we totally agree that other families should be recognized. Absolutely. That's not our intent here at all. And our first thoughts are you're taking down a name that was in town's history. By removing Gilmore from the park, you're taking him out of the town history. And naming an area for him inside a park has to be discussed with all of our family. It's not up to the 3 of us to make a decision here. Yeah, it could have been, it can be, it may be able to be done. I'm not sure. It's up to our family.
Okay.
So thank you.
Rolly, if you can speak in the mic, because the viewing audience on YouTube can't hear you if you're
You've
not on the
been
mic.
giving us the opportunity here tonight to
Can you
either
get
have
closer?
Petite Coat is the name of the park or nothing else.
That's the
Get rid-
recommendation.
That was the recommendation. So
Correct.
that's what we came here for. Now you're gonna sit here and dicker back and forth. We don't have that right. We're just here trying to hold our name. We'd have to be able to talk to the family. We're not the ones deciding. You had that chance when Dad and Aunt Blanche were alive, and it was kind of put to the side. As for names, nobody, I don't think, would ever be ignored. You just keep the blanket name Gilmore Park because of the size of it. Like it is a lot bigger than what shows on the map, because Front Road Park is Gilmore Park, according to that letter of 1994. It's as clear as day. Front Road Park will now be Gilmore Park. But council and administration never acknowledged it. So it should be from where Gilmore starts now to Adams Lane almost, just before the Dasty home. So that enlarges the whole park itself a whole lot compared to what's going to be added. Maybe 40% of the park. Benoit Home is there. That's fine. And you guys are going to keep that name. Nothing wrong with that. It should be called Siri Home because they sold it too. But Benoit is better because it makes a lot of sense. It's got history to it. And the event center, you can have a nice new name of Petite Coat on an event center inside Gilmore Park. Very simple. That's kind of what we're looking to do because that's what you kind of gave us. Take it or leave it is what you gave us. We didn't have a chance to do this talk. So that's what we're kind of looking at. And you have a policy of dedicated parks. Through LaSalle, there's, like, you're not going to take Marcotte's name off it. And I don't blame you. I would never. Marcotte Park, Brunette Park, any parks, they're dedicated names. Those are locked in. And we'll use the John Dupy Park as an example. People fought over that to change the name. And the council of before said, no, that's a named park, leave it. And that's all we're asking you guys to do with us right now is leave the name, maybe expand it to the whole thing, but and then you can sell as many names off as possible. All the names of families that did donate or contribute or sell, give them names inside Gilmore Park. That's all we're asking right now.
Okay. Before I go to that, there's some points that Ms. Hadre, from a historical point, if you want to mention, the naming of the park was done in 1994 by the council of the day. But my understanding was the information they received for the request to name it to Gilmore Park was it was donated land, not purchased, because that changes a lot. I don't think we owe as much to people who purchase as to who donated. But I think you'll agree when 3.6 acres was purchased, now it's a 60-acre property. And I commend you for following in your grandfather's memory. I would do the same thing. You said, Susan, you quoted me. I won't deny that. We just have to come to something that's sensible to say, we want to respect the history. We want to respect the Moore family. I think you used the words, he was honorable and respectful. Never said he wasn't. It would have been a pleasure to have met him, but we have to now do something with this park. It wasn't a Dicker situation, just to make it clear. Deputy Mayor Meloche just brought this tonight that she doesn't like the name. It's council's decision. It's not mine. It's not administration's. I look at Joe because he's their CAO. So it's council that would make the ultimate decision. So I don't want you to think it's in combative nature. You've known me years. It's open dialogue. We'll see what we can do. But now what's going to happen is information gathering and some questions are going to be asked. So I think we have Councillor Reno, then Councillor Akpata, and then Councillor Dicho Spagnuolo.
If you
Sure,
don't mind.
go ahead.
The only thing, like I say, as Ms. Hadri was saying, this has been going for 2 years, and this project has been referred to as Small Coast or however else you've been naming it. So 2 years ago, you knew that you were going to say to us, we're taking your grandfather's name off the park. But you gave us 4.5 days to do this. Now, that's not right. You should have come back to us 2 years ago and said, by the way, we're doing this huge project. We're going to, your grandfather's name is going to be taken off the park. What can we do? Or is there a compromise or whatever? Then my father, Roland, and my aunt who were alive, they were the ones that should have made that decision. They were Gilbert's family. They were his children. They were the ones that knew what happened between the town and the purchase and the donation, whatever. They knew all that, but you didn't, and you waited. And now it's all you say, we say, they say, and it's just very upsetting to the family, as you can tell. So that's what my pet peeve is that you guys just kind of went in the back and said, wow, we don't tell them. We'll just wait until it's too late. Boom, then hit us. So that's where I am. Yeah, that's how it felt.
Okay, nothing was done that way. I know you're looking at Ms. Hadri. She's putting the report together. So you look at her like she's the devil in the room, but she's not. All she's doing is she did the background, the history. None of us here knew the history, none. And then she went through the files of Laserfiche, which are packed, and found that in 1994, it was named the Council of the Day, but it was named on the premise that it was donated land, not purchased. Changes a little bit, and it was 3.6 acres, and now we're at 60 acres. So no disrespect to the Moore name, but let's continue with the discussion here with Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. And first of all, I wanted to thank the Moore family for supporting each other, for being here tonight. So many times when we look at issues in the town or initiatives that we want to move forward, nobody shows up. Nobody takes the time to care. And you know, Ms. Hadre can tell you there are 33,000, 34,000 people in this town, and we would love to get a feeling from every one of them, but they just don't come out. But you guys came out. So first of all, thank you to you guys for coming out. Thank you to the 3 grandchildren. Isn't that weird to be called grandchildren? Like you're just 3 little kids at the front table. Yeah. So the grandchildren, thank you for stepping forward and because, you know, I've thought about this a million different ways, you know, the fact that it's 3 acres in a 7.5 acre park out of a 60 acre property and all these things. And I do agree with the report in one thing, that I do believe it needs one name. How we treat areas within that large park is different, but I do believe it needs one identity, one large name to move forward. And you know, I think about my own grandfather, and you know, if like the mayor said, if this was happening to my grandfather, then I would be here too. And I would hope that I don't even have enough family to fill the chairs. I really don't. But the fact of the matter is that no matter what's happened in 1970 and in 1980 and in 1994, I grew up probably 300 feet from Gilmore Park. And I lived there for 21 years. And I'm proud to say that when I was part of the Strawberry Festival, I brought some big entertainment to Gilmore Park, and I was looking at the poster in my basement, "Welcome the Tea Party to Gilmore Park." And the fact of the matter is that that piece of property, and I'm going to call it the 7 acre property now, that piece of grass has great memories for many of us. I have great memories. My first car I brought to my first car show was in Gilmore Park. Obviously, the years of the Strawberry Festival and the parties, and we probably closed the park, Councillor Charlie and I, as others have, many times over many years. So I firmly believe that there's a significance, especially to that 7 acre piece of grass. And I'm not trying to minimize it by calling it that, but in the end, everybody who knows the park and knows the destination and knows how to get there recognizes that big park. I agree with the deputy mayor, as I believe I probably agree with about 94 submissions or 94 pages worth of submissions, that the event center is going to be a crown jewel. It's going to be something fantastic in our community. However, naming a room there is not necessarily the right thing to do. I keep going back to the fact that the city of Windsor made a decision last night that they are going to drop the E from Matchett on Matchett Road, okay? We dealt with that issue already 7 years ago, 6 years ago. And I don't know how many of you realize there's a room upstairs here called the Matchett with no E room, okay? And unfortunately, it's lost on many people. It's lost on the many people that now question, what's LaSalle going to do? LaSalle already did something. So I don't feel that the room in the event center, and I've said it's 2 doors down, you know, from where the park was. I don't even look at the house. Obviously, you guys look at the house because it's your family history. I don't even look at the house because it was in somebody else's ownership for a while, but I look at that big piece of grass that we've been using for years and years and promoting and putting on Google and all those things. So my suggestion is very similar. I personally don't have a problem with Petite Côte as a name. However, I respect that if council wants to move forward with a 45-day, I can entertain that. But I do believe that we need to look at a more significant naming possibility. You know, I had the opportunity to meet with the 3 of you. I gave you some suggestions, and I know that it's not your decision what's going to happen in the end. But I do believe that there's going to be some world-class attractions on the grass, on that big piece of grass. There's going to be actually that entire zone. When you look at the way it was organized in the original plans 2 years ago, and even in the revised plans from last Christmas, you can see that there's a very distinct zone where that big piece of grass was. I personally would have no problem with a Gilmore zone, with a recreation zone, a leisure zone, whatever way it could be marketed or spun. But I do believe that we need one great big name. I personally, as you alluded to in your speech, Rolly, I sold memberships for Costco a long time ago, and I know how hard it is to sell stuff. I do believe that there's going to come a time where we're going to need to put naming rights on, especially that building. And I don't know if naming the entire park after a person is going to help or hinder, because I don't do that for a living. Ms. Hadre, you know, she's doing all this research and stuff. I don't know anything about that, and I would need to see more information brought forward before I could say that was a good idea. Even if we put it out to public consultation and everyone in this room were the only ones that actually put their words forward, I would need probably some pretty heavy information to make sure that is not going to hinder our opportunities with the event center, or with even bringing a commercial zone, which, I mean, really everybody in talking about this project, all they really care about, they want somewhere to go. They want restaurants, they want cafes, they want little shops. And I'd hate to think that making a rash decision now would affect our opportunity to get a name brand coming down to LaSalle. So if you guys got 5 minutes, my 5 minutes are probably over. But I will leave it at that for someone else to make a motion, and I will either support or deny. Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Ekpata,
Thank you very much, Your
then
Worship.
Councillor Dicho Spegnol.
To the family, you've got reach, and I've got an email that a citizen wanted me to read. But I'll tell you 2 stories. I found myself at Canadian Tire in line early one morning, because that's the best time to go to Canadian Tire. And I was tapped on the shoulder by a gentleman who said, "I'm a longtime resident of the town of LaSalle. Let me educate you on a couple of points." He said, the coat of arms that sits behind you, he says, "When I was a young lad at grade school, I drew it." He says, "You didn't choose my application." I said, "Sir, I wasn't involved then." He says, No. He says, "Let's just make sure we understand something. When the town of LaSalle wants to engage, you engage with the public." This gentleman told me about how he drew his submission, how his mother kept a copy of it. Now it's framed in the house. Then he said to me, "Do you understand what erasing history is about?" And we started to talk about places I've been with the military and how those names stay. Simply put, I will be short and succinct. Gilmore Park is the park. That's it for me. The Petite Côte is up the street, and I'm going to read, with permission, an email that was sent to me by a citizen. Donna Gibb. Please note that I am not, capital, in favor of renaming Gilmore Park to Petite Côte. The name Petite Côte already exists on Front Road, LaSalle, and that's where it belongs, not in the heart. Donna, with your permission, can I read your email at council? Mike, you have my permission. Make it clear to the family this is how I feel. I don't like Petite Côte. That's neither here nor there. It's not Mike Ekpata's decision. It's the people who tapped me on the shoulder and told me. I like the deputy mayor's view of opening to the public, because I'm going to tell you, the gentleman who educated me on the coat of arms is probably in the community right now, hopefully watching us on YouTube, tapping, saying, "Leave it alone. History is history. Your family, like you said, there's no need to remove." For me, I live on Huron, so I see your park, the family park, every day. I'm not opposed to leaving the entire acreage. I'm not opposed to working with you. I don't want to see the name of your family in a room. I want to see what I've been told, as my colleague said, represent 33,000 people. Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Dicho Spegnol.
Thank you, through you. To the family, I just wanted to thank you also. I think it's great that you are continuing this legacy. And I also think that we have a duty as council to keep a name that's already established. That's my thought. Gilmore Park is the park that I've known since I've moved to LaSalle 18 years ago. And I just feel like that's already an established name. However, I do, one other point is I've never been a fan of the Petite Côte for the whole waterfront area, so that I just wanted to be known. I did write a couple of things down. Is one thing I wanted to make clear is I do agree with Deputy Mayor Malash. I believe community consultation is very important. And I'll give an example. Just last year, I work with Canadian Mental Health. There's a park hill in Windsor called Suicide Hill. We wanted to change the name and the culture because of the name. We went to the community with the City of Windsor Council, and we reached out to the community. We had received over 1,500 responses with different names of Hope Hill and different submissions, and we ended up naming it Hope Hill. We had a beautiful grand opening there, and it's just something that I believe that you should be engaging your community. And I love the idea of naming rights, because that's, again, something that I do in my career. And I think that it is such a wide, large area at Front Road. And I think that you could do what I believe Councillor Desjarlais had mentioned also, do a few different naming rights, like with the ice rink and different areas like that. I definitely don't agree with the naming right in a room, because it should be an outside feature, because that's where Gilmore Park was. Let me just see if there's any other comments that I wanted to say. And I just said that I also agree that, yeah, I think I just said that about public input was one that I wanted to say. And that, you know, I definitely think that Gilmore Park should remain the same as it is now, or we come up with some type of resolution with public consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to have our CEO give us some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just maybe wanted to start off by saying a couple of things just to the family. Certainly, again, there was no intentional withholding of the report that we had done in that fashion. I understand you may feel that way, but I can tell you that from administration's perspective, there was no intention to do that. There was no intention to insult. And quite frankly, we were not aware of the recent death and of your family members. So certainly, I just wanted to let you know that that's how we were coming at it, and the information we were dealing with. There was an error, and we admit to that there was an error, that we did place it on the agenda of the 24th or the 26th of June, and then realized that we had not informed you, and that's why we postponed it to this meeting. And so that was an error on our part, and we fully admit to that. I think one of the comments that some of the family members have made is that, you know, there was this impression, and understandably so, that we didn't want to deal with you, or it was a take it or leave it, and no options were offered. And from your standpoint, I can understand where you're coming from. I think from our standpoint, what we're trying to do, and why, you know, I think some of the comments, and the mayor's absolutely correct. I mean, Ms. Hodry was putting together information, and, you know, we have a group within our own administration that deals with the waterfront project. And so, you know, when the comment that was made and indicating that 2 years ago we knew, and I would say I can understand why you're feeling that way, but perhaps just to explain, 2 years ago, we only purchased the former Westport Marina site. In the last 2 years, we purchased another, I'm going to say approximately 20 or 25 acres on top of that site. And we've expanded it from the edge of Westport right up to Rheem Motors. And so the scope of the project has changed. And so what you may have understood 2 years ago, understandably so from your perspective, from our perspective, has changed to some degree, because the park has gotten larger. And it's becoming more and more. And we've had consultations with even our tourism agency that has that represents here us in Windsor, Essex, Pelee Island. And you know, they're giving us advice in terms of how best to market the site. And it has expanded to what it is today. So I think from that perspective, that might put some context into why things happened 2 years ago versus where we are today. And so from that perspective, I just wanted to kind of provide that background. Again, to members of council, again, from administration's perspective, we need a bit of direction in terms of what you'd like us to do. Certainly, if what the deputy mayor is suggesting in terms of a more public naming process, and I think that was part of Councilor Gerardi, your point from the previous meeting. If that avenue is to be taken, then I believe that that will lead to a unified name for the entire parcel. That may be Petite Côte, that may be the Moore Family Park or the Gilmore Park. It certainly won't be the Militia Park. I will tell you that for sure. But I will say that if we go down that path, the entire parcel will have a different name. Then, and if I'm understanding what one of the comments that the Moore family has indicated, they would like the entire parcel to be named the Gilmore Park. And so that we're at odds there. So we need to make a decision on which way to go. I would also extend, and I think Deputy Mayor, you made the comment, you know, again, I'm willing, and certainly members of administration is willing to meet with the three of you and discuss what options, sorry, there's more. You know, whoever the families or members are that would like to be involved, we're more than happy to meet with you to discuss what options are available. Again, if council decides it's going to be the Gilmore Park for its entirety, that makes things really easy. But if we are going to go down this public process, then we can certainly sit down with whomever the family would like, whether it's 1, 2, 10, however many you'd like to attend. And we can talk about what options are available for namings. I understand that you're not happy with the naming of the room. And we can certainly give other options that might be available that maybe are more appropriate for or what you see as more appropriate. So we can certainly do that. But I think the first step we have to do is certainly understand what council's direction is with respect to the naming of the park. And then subsequent to that, I think if it is to go to a public process, then we will certainly arrange a meeting with the I'll just say representatives of the Moore family, and you happen to be the three speakers tonight, but you can involve whoever you like from that. Two other comments I will make. As much as we can, if we do choose the path of the public process for naming, I can guarantee you that 45 days will not be enough because we need to promote it to get people interested to register their names with us. Then we need to go through some analysis as we compile all the information and then get back to council. So the open period might be 30 to 45 days, but you can count on probably another 45 days of pre and post work to be done. So we will, if that option is chosen, we will not be back to council before 90 days. And I'm just trying to set the expectations so that you're not expecting something back at the end of August, that's just not coming. So from a realistic perspective, that's where we stand. The last point is we do have, again, because we're under construction with the event center, we are scheduled to have the event center opened by the end of August, if I've got the timeline correct. And so we will be in I'll call it a period of flux, where we will be opening the event center and we'll have to either continue on with the Petite Côte name for now, or choose some sort of other bland name to send it out and start that process. So that will be, part of that process as we go through, because we will be in a period where the event center will be open, but we will not have an official name to the park. So those are kind of my comments at that point, but certainly some direction from council as to how the naming would go forward, and then subsequent to that, certainly the offer with the representatives of the Moore family to see what a more appropriate naming option might be.
Somebody's lifting their hand up behind you, Rolly, but do you want to, I'll allow a comment. But you have to put your name, say your name, please, and put the mic on. And can you spell your name, please?
Okay. My name is Karen Savard, Savard. And I have a couple questions, well, one question. This naming or this whole Petite Côte and the, sorry, a little nervous. The new building, everything that's going on and has been going on for a couple of years with the, the expansion, the purchasing and all that. It went out to the community somehow. But the Moore's family didn't find out about it. So I'm wondering, how will the community be reached this time around if it goes public? Because you've got people that don't have internet, people that aren't on Facebook, people that aren't hooked up to anything electronic, but they've lived here for 20, 40, 60 years, and they'd like to be a part of it. And I know it's hard to involve 33,000 people, but there's a lot of people that would like to have a say that didn't this time, and because they're not hooked up. So I would hope that those somehow, all the people could at least know what's going on in their town. And I don't know from listening to everything how it got decided that this new establishment is already Petite Côte, but on the other hand, you're still deciding if it's going to be Petite Côte or Gilmore or what it is. So it's already confusing before you even change the name. But like I just, I feel for the family. They've been through so much in the last 6 months with, everybody now knows about their losses. And now this is like, almost like another death of history. And I'm not family, but I care. I've had family that have been recognized and had something taken away as well. But all these people in the back are grandchildren, or are they all grandchildren? Cousins, they're all family. Okay, so I just, yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Karen. We'll have
you.
Mr. Militia address those concerns.
So certainly from a consultation perspective, that is a struggle what we have across the board with this project, with any project we do. We try our best to get the word out. And unfortunately, there's an onus on residents to be involved. And COVID wasn't friendly when it came to that. It has opened up some different avenues that we have not used in the past, and some of the virtual and digital communication and connection. We recently had the LaSalle Post reintroduced into the community, so that gives us another avenue. We do use open houses now because of that, but we recently had an open house and we had 8 people that came forward, and it just, people, unfortunately, some want to be engaged, many don't want to be engaged, and that's the struggle we run into. So, but we do use a multi-platform approach where we try to reach as many people as possible through our social media channels, through our regular traditional media channels, through open houses, and through our online engagement tool, which is our Plate Street product. So we do use those things to try to engage the public. I would love to say that we reach every one of the 34,000 people, but I would be lying if I said that. We try our best to get that message out, but unfortunately, we, like many other communities, are struggling with trying to get that message out without the traditional way of doing it, whether it was a mailing or whether it was the local paper that was mailed to everyone. So we do try, and we will try with this process should council adopt that process to go forward. In terms of the confusion with the name, I will say that we were proceeding forward based on the fact that the Petite Côte name was going to be the name for the whole site, which is why the recommendation is written the way it was. And so now we're hearing some comments coming back, and we're hearing perhaps a different process that was introduced by Councillor Desjardins and again, Deputy Mayor Malash at this meeting, that's going to change. So, we were trying to avoid the confusion, but it seems as though we've added more in, quite frankly. And so we will need to recover from that and get through a process, which again goes back to the comment I made earlier in saying that a 30-day or 45-day window is not nearly enough time to try to turn that around and try to get some consistency as we go forward. I would say optimistically, we may be January 1 when we have a name established. That would be probably a pretty good goal by the time we run through the public process and internal process and then get back to council with a turnaround date. That is, unless of course the council decides something tonight. And what I'm hearing is that council seems to be somewhat interested in a naming process, a public naming process. So I hope that answers your question. I know that it's a difficult one. We struggle with it all the time, trying to engage people, and we try our best, but unfortunately, some folks just don't want to get engaged. And then, we've tried every platform we can, and sometimes it's just hard to get that reach.
I'll allow closing remarks, and then we'll let council decide what they want to do. Okay, Rolly?
I'd just like to mention that I like what council has offered, which is a great thing to go with a public forum. But administration says Petite Côte. We're the only ones that are here or want the name of Gilmore Park to remain as this. I understand everybody should get a name, and that can come in time. But the way you're talking right here, if we want to get this event center open on time with a name, maybe put it out to the town, either Petite Côte or Gilmore Park, as we did when we went LaSalle or Trillium. That went out pretty good. So there would be a vote, throw a vote out there, and you could have it done within your 45 days and have a name for your new event center inside one of these parks. That's all we're asking there to do.
Thanks, Rolly.
And thanks for your time.
I think it's well deserved that you come out here, as everyone on council respects that there's an issue here and it should be addressed. And I think every council and administration is listening. Not an easy decision that has to be made, but it's now council's pleasure. What they like to. Sure.
When this was introduced to us that this meeting was coming on, we were told that if the name Petite Côte is approved, the Gilmore Park name is wiped out forever. Now, in this instance, you're not giving us that. So we really don't understand where this is. Like, we want the name, we would like the name to be Gilmore Park. But we were told that no or yes. Now, I know Mrs. Malash or Miss Malash, you indicated, Councillor Malash, that, you indicated there's different options. We were never told that. We were told this or that. So you can understand where we're coming from. And that's why we're fighting for this. So that I just wanted to let you know that as well.
Thank you. Council's pleasure. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Through you, just to kind of maybe respond to that real quickly, I think that's something that's lost on a lot of residents is kind of the process of this. And we get presented a report, and the report is this or this. And it really is up to everyone up here to say yes, no, or let's try this. So that's why something completely different comes out of this. And administration's probably looking at us going, well, this is completely different, but that's what happens. And that's what I proposed tonight is, I didn't agree with the report. I don't agree with the name. I think we need to engage the public as we did Town of LaSalle, or even as we did in choosing the Strawberry Festival, or if not, what would we have? If we weren't the Strawberry Festival, what was it? Do you remember what they were choosing? Another vegetable, something we didn't like. Either way, radish. We would have had the Radish Festival. I don't like radish. But that's my point is we need community engagement. And that's why when I read the report and I read the submissions, and I have to acknowledge the fact, like I said, that yes, it's your family's donated or been a big part of the park. as well as the many others that we've purchased over the past even 2.5 years. And I just don't want that to be lost on all the other families when they sit there and go, wait a second. So you're going to name a 68-acre park after this family, yet without the TAN's very large building and marina, this park wouldn't even come together because that's right dead center in the middle. So I just want to make sure that we're being fair to all families and recognizing everyone. So my recommendation is to send this back to administration. And I would like a public consultation. And I realize 45 days may not be realistic. And that's up to you to determine what is realistic of our staff and putting it out to the public and making sure that it's enough time for everybody to be fully engaged in the process. And I would like administration in that time frame to also sit down with the Moore family, 3 of you or 30 of you, and come up with alternatives to, if we don't name 60 acres Gilmore Park, what other thing would you be in favor of? Is there something else that you think would be a great honor to your family that we could consider for that waterfront? So if is that a clear enough motion for you? I know, I apologize, but that's, yes, so I'll let her finish typing, but I don't want a decision to be made tonight because I realize, like you said, you have to speak to the entire family. So I would like that opportunity to happen.
The clerk will read. Okay.
Okay, so I have that administration commence a public process to obtain public input on the naming of the waterfront park lands. That's how I've described it. And that administration meet with the Mauer family to come up with a suitable option to recognize Gil Moore, sorry. Moore, yes.
Okay, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Desjardins, any discussion on the motion? Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to add that in the public consultation that we have a live in-person opportunity, like we did the drainage project that had 8 people. I'd like it to be noted that I was one of them. So, but I do believe in given the stature of all of us, we aren't all on the internet. We aren't all connected. We aren't all living on our phones like I feel like I do sometimes. So I would like to see, in addition to that, I would like to see at least one live in-person consultation session as opposed to just being online. That's all.
I think that can easily be accomplished. There's an election this year. They don't have much else to do. They can get it all done. For some people, there's an election. So, okay. Call on motion. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Moore family, relatives. Thanks for your presentation. And you'll be notified in a more timely manner the next step once we get that far. Okay. Oh, Mr. Militia. Okay. Just before you go, Mr. Militia
If
has
I could
something to
ask a
add.
question, who could be our point contact? Yeah, just, and then our initial point of contact will be with you, and then from that point, we'll go. Great.
Do we have Shelley's information? Shelley, do we have your, okay, we do? Okay. All right. Thanks for coming in. Okay. It's like Deputy Mayor Meloche said, it starts this way and then it just explodes, and then that's where we're at. But we'll come to a good resolution. Thank you. All right, take care. Well, now we move to the tree planting policy. Mark Beggs.
I guess the one's interested in my tree plant. Mayor and members of council, the report tonight is regarding a tree planting policy that we've developed as through a request through council. The original request for the tree planting policy included a way for residents to plant a tree on their own property, and that the town pay for the tree or have a discount on the tree. In review of that, we decided to build this in a way that the tree would be planted on the town's property and paid for by the town to eliminate any confusion in the future, who owns the tree, who's responsible for the tree, trimming, taking it down, and all the other fun things we deal with trees. So in the report, I've laid out the summary of the policy, where it would be the Public Works Department reviewing trees and locations. The requester would need to be the owner of the property, so it wouldn't be able to be renters and that sort of thing. Town staff would meet on location to review if there's any issues with utilities, streetlight poles, stop signs, all that kind of stuff, determine how many trees would be planted. And then we would use our approved street tree list to plant the tree annually. So residents would not have a choice of what species of trees, and that's just in an attempt to avoid just all kinds of questions and problems with what kind of tree needs to go in. It would be a tree from the list, and we would just determine what species of tree would be planted. The town would pay for the trees, maintain the trees, just like we would any other street tree. And in a effort to not go down a whole street and start planting trees just on everybody's property, this would be a process where residents would call in and request the tree, and then we would deal with it from there. Regarding the budget, there is not a lot of money in the budget right now for this program, but we would expect that we could spend around $5,000 this year, and that would get us about 10 trees. I don't know if we'll get 5 people calling or 20 people calling, but we'll kind of see how it goes. And then in future budgets, we can ask for some additional funds to see how the program goes. I'm available for any questions if anyone has any.
Councillor Dicho Spagnolo, Councillor Reynolds, and Councillor Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, through you, to Mr. Beggs. My question was, but I believe you just answered it, what the procedure was for a resident to obtain a tree. But I did have a question. If there was only 5 to 10 trees, how do you go? Is it the first come, first serve? So how it would go, or is it per neighborhood?
I think we would do first come, first serve, and we'll see how many we get. And what we would do is we would take sort of orders up to a certain point in the year, probably September. And then if you got it in by September, you would get it this year, and the following would go to the next year. So every fall we would plant trees the same way we do tree replacements of stuff that we have to take down for regular maintenance.
Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question to you, Mr. Beggs, what kind of costs are involved in the legacy of these trees now? Like what have you figured? Because I mean, a healthy tree needs to be pruned. Eventually a healthy tree needs to be removed. And if you remove one of those trees, I assume they're going to want another tree back immediately. I just don't see how this program, the way it's presented, is sustainable. By putting it on our property, we're also opening ourselves to huge liabilities. I mean, if that tree comes down on my car, it's your tree. I'm looking for a little bit more of your thought process behind why we wouldn't possibly even plant it on their property and say to them, sign this paper, this is your tree, we'll plant it. We want more trees. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with the idea of the tree canopy. I think that was one of the most romantic things that that LaSalle's had over the last 100 years. But in the end, I think I have to look at protecting the corporation for the next 100 years as well. So can you just give me a little bit of thought process behind that?
Yeah, for sure. I think the thought process behind it was very similar to when street trees go in for new developments. We put a tree every 30 feet on a new development on the town property. It's paid for through the development, and then we are responsible for that maintenance of that tree until it has to be taken down, and then a new one gets planted. So I don't have the exact costs of how much a single tree would cost us over its lifetime. It's significant. We spend a lot of money on trees. But I think in areas of the town that we have dealt with in the past, where trees have been planted even on the property line, I'm thinking of areas like like on Laurier Drive, where we've got huge maple trees that are, it's questionable whose property that they are on. As soon as they are even partially on the town's property, we become responsible for these trees. When the branches fall on the road, whether it's ours or somebody else, at the end of the day, we're the ones getting sued. We're the ones answering all the questions and dealing with the trees. So the thought process was with this was to keep it consistent with other trees that are going in, so that even our staff, when we're going around and maintaining, that we know it's ours to deal with. And I can appreciate what you're saying, Counselor, and it would be probably an idea to plant it on private property. But just as time goes on, everybody kind of forgets about all these things. And at the end of the day, it comes into, you know, the branch that's hanging over the road fell on a car, and it turns into our problem anyway. So we feel like, let's keep it on our property so it's very clear that it is our tree.
Just a supplemental question. This would go to Mr. Langlois. The town, when a new development goes in, there are development fees and development charges. Do any of those charges get held back for tree maintenance at this point? We plant, you know, if we're planting 100 homes, we're planting 100 trees. Does any of that development fee get brought back, or is this simply coming out of the parks budget every single year? Now, with the next 300 homes, we're adding 300 more costs to our coffers.
Typically, development charges are used strictly to pay for growth, not to maintain any existing trees, or really we haven't used them to plant trees because that's more part of a developer's agreement. So once they are planted, it comes out of the operating budget under parks.
Okay, and I understand that, but my question would be, if the development fee, if a sidewalk cracks in 6 months, is there holdback from the development fee, or is that coming from our budget? I'm just trying to put it in perspective, because I just see, I see this as being a big cost down the road. That's all.
Yeah, that typically wouldn't be funded from any type of development fee, strictly any maintenance type activities. If anything breaks after it's originally built, unless it's under warranty, that's typically funded from our operating budget.
Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. I actually had to go back and reread part of the report because I was a little confused there for a second, because the way you kind of worded it, I thought we were putting it on their private property. I thought, no, I swear I read public. So I've managed to work that out myself and realize we're just doing similar to what we're doing now with developments and putting it on our own right away, and we be our own maintenance of it. And I think it's a great idea. I think what makes the town of LaSalle what it is today is the trees. And I think this is a great initiative and something we really need to get on board sooner than later. And I'm hoping if we accept something like this, maybe possibly we'll see some sort of bylaw in the future that would deal with the removal of trees. And I know administration doesn't like that when I say something like that, but I know, you know, it's a hard thing to discuss, is the idea of removing very mature trees in a town like LaSalle. But I think the reason LaSalle is what it is and the reason people live here is for the trees. And I strongly support this evening.
No other yes, Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you.
Oh, before we go there, Mr. Osborne, you wanted to add something?
Yes, thank you. Through your mayor. Just to go back to the trees getting planted in a development, those would have a maintenance period and a warranty period. And like a sidewalk, we assume that asset at the end of that maintenance period. And it is just part of our assets to maintain. Part of the way we looked at it and keeping it consistent with the way we do developments is much like we want to increase our active transportation network, we want to try to get all of our roads to similar standards. So part of the standard we ask developers to do is build a roadway with sidewalks and street trees. So when we come across a situation where we take down a tree or do a road project or can add a sidewalk, we want to do our best to try to get that standard met on our existing streets as well. So part of that is getting more street trees in the boulevards, similar to what we have in developments. So that's where we tried to kind of pull in that consistency from a bit from the way we handle developments.
Mr. Beggs.
Just to clarify, even a comment about removal of trees. Currently in our tree maintenance policy, we do have a policy that we don't remove any tree that is healthy. So only an unhealthy tree would be removed.
Deputy Mayor?
Just to clarify, I wasn't talking about us. I was talking about residents
Yes.
and large developments or possibly very large mature trees in neighborhoods.
Councillor Desjardins, then Councillor Akpata and Councillor Di Spagnuolo.
Thank you. Just one quick question and maybe Mr. Osborne answered part of it. Years ago, we had a tree farm. Do we still have a tree farm or do we buy trees from different sources at this point?
We did have a tree farm at one time, and there are still a few trees in the tree farm area, but we have abandoned the tree farm and we've gone to purchasing trees. We found that we were losing a lot of trees in the farm, and the costs and the warranty that you get with purchasing the tree is better for us at the moment anyway.
Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to administration, I'm just Googling because nothing better than supporting the position that the gentleman has put forth about Tree Canada and different tree grants that are out there. I would hope that if we have a bylaw that says we're going to reinvest in the canopy of the town of LaSalle, that we're able to reach out to the Fed and the province as well to do something to see if our bylaw makes us eligible for some of these grants. And I would hope that I'm going to look towards the financial folks in support of the greening of LaSalle to say, would this bylaw, and I realize I'm jumping on you right now, I don't like to do it. You don't have what I have in front of me, but I've got to believe that the bylaw would then allow us to apply for grants if the municipality is putting extra trees in. If you've got any sort of idea as to how we do, because I know you're getting more and more successful in your grant writing. So I'd hope that we could do it for the greening of LaSalle.
All I can say is there is a green stream for grants. It's becoming more popular. There are more green related grants. As of yet, I haven't seen anything that requires a bylaw. You know, there's always letters of support, always help in receiving grants and whatnot. So, but we haven't at this point, sometimes they'll require council resolution to support applying for the grant, but I haven't really investigated in that detail on whether or not a bylaw would actually assist with receiving the grant.
Like I said, I didn't mean to blindside you, but I've just got this one that says apply for a grant for a tree right now. So I'm going to see if I can do it myself personally. And if it gets rejected, then maybe I can submit it to you for your assistance in helping secure the grant to put a tree on my own property. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Di Spagnuolo.
Thank you through you. Councillor Akpata actually asked my question. I was wondering if there was any opportunities for grants, but he asked it. So thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. First come, first serve. I need the start date so my wife can call and ask for 10 trees.
I've had 3 calls already, so get her to call.
Is there a start date?
We're gonna, if it's approved tonight, I've got 3 to call back to
Already?
to get the process started.
So they saw the agenda online and called. Good for them. Okay, council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Desjardins, support Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Beggs. Tile drainage loan, Pajot Farms Limited. Mr. Ferrero.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The report before you is in relation to a tile loan application by a property owner in the amount of $50,000. The tile loan program, the tile drainage loan program, sorry, is a program through MATHRA where the property owner through the town requests and receives a grant of $50,000. Once the funds, if approved, are forwarded to the property owner, the repayment schedule was placed on the owner's property taxes, thereby reducing the risk to the municipality significantly. So that is there is an inspection done by our drainage inspector, which is we're hoping it will be the town's manager of engineering. It's also part of the report. So there is very little risk for the town, but it's an opportunity for property owners to access some funding through a MAFRA and with the town's assistance.
Any council questions? We approved this one before you were here about 7 years ago. There's another one, same people. And if you drive by, it's already in the ground, as I did yesterday. Council's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Information items to be received. We have a letter from the city of Cambridge. They've been on fire lately. Councillor Reno. Oh, I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry.
I didn't have my hand up, but I was the one that asked to put this off to the next meeting. I would simply move to receive.
Okay, moved by, excuse me, Councillor Reno, support Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? Oh, before we vote, just discussion on the motion, Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you. Just wondering if this is something we should also be endorsing, or just reading through it, and I don't know, for our building department, obviously that's who it would kind of be more tied to. Is this something that we should be also, instead of just receiving, endorsing?
Does anybody want to comment on that? Mr. Militia?
Again, the recommendation that's included in the agenda is to support the motion. Oh, sorry, to receive. I'm sorry. I didn't get to the end of the line.
All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Summary of reports to council. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay. Bylaws. Okay, I just have to give a couple of information items. We're dealing with first and second reading only on bylaw 8715 to provide the minor improvement of the Lipan drain in the town of LaSalle in the county of Essex. So on the first and second reading on 8715 only, Councillor Reno, Deputy Mayor Malash, all in favor on both readings? That carries. Thank you. The next one, bylaw be given a first, second, and third reading on all three remaining bylaws. All six remaining bylaws. Yeah, sorry, three reading. Deputy Mayor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I counted the line. Sorry.
You got to go right to the end of the line.
I just found out something. I'm not perfect. Okay. On all five bylaws, three readings. Councillor Desjardins, Deputy Councillor Akpata, all in favor. That carries. Okay, committee matters. Seeing none, questions and statements by council members. Deputy Mayor Malash, and then Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you very much. I was contacted today, actually by several people who've read the news with the City of Windsor's recent announcement of Match It, and also by a couple of news stations who wanted to discuss what town of LaSalle is going to do. And I thought it was important that our town does the right thing and brings this back for a discussion. I know years ago we did deal with it and we did the room. But I think now with the City of Windsor making this change and it being a continuous road through Windsor to LaSalle, I think it'd only be appropriate that this be brought back to council for discussion to figure out what we do next to address this kind of a situation. And I think it would be just the right thing to do at this time.
You made notice of motion. So as you're going to bring a notice of motion next council meeting for administration to come back. Bring a report back. Makes sense. Sure. Okay. Councillor Desjardins, sorry. Okay.
I'm not sure who this would go to. I'm not sure, Ms. Fanero, or do we have anybody from IT here? I've received some messages from folks who have taken over, have become members at the Volmer complex because LaSalle Fitness apparently has closed. I didn't know that. They're concerned about the Wi-Fi and lack of, and I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do to make it better, or if we're working on it, or we know there's a problem, and where are we with it, please, and thank you.
Mr. Longwa.
So just on that, that issue is with regards to our routers that are currently there. And those aren't typically the routers that you'd buy at Best Buy. They're a little bit more powerful. We've ordered them quite some time ago, and with the backlogs that everyone's experiencing pretty much with everything in the supply chain issues. But we are expecting a shipment in the very near future. I spoke with our manager of IT. We're replacing them actually, we're going to replace them in the Volmer and also this building here as well. There's certain areas of this building, sometimes there's some issues with the Wi-Fi. And speaking with Mr. DiGesu, we're going to prioritize the Volmer first. And then I think we have 2 shipments coming in the near future, and then we'll get the Wi-Fi at this building upgraded as well. So as soon as we receive them, the ball will be rolling on that.
Councillor Ekpata.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I guess, to Mr. Langlo again, following up on my colleague's question. At our house, the Rogers outage impacted my wife's work. The College of Physicians and Surgeons seems to have some things with Rogers, and I couldn't go over to the States because I couldn't do my Arrive CAN. From your perspective, what would, and this is just a question, not to put you on the spot, redundancy of systems to ensure that should something like this happen again, I don't know the depth and breadth of how the town of LaSalle may have been affected. I don't know what our security posture is, and I don't want you to comment on security posture, please, sir, but just on the redundancy of our systems and from your perspective, the cost to the municipality after we saw that nationwide outage from Rogers.
So our current service provider for cell phones is TELUS, but just with regards to our internet and our systems and whatnot, we currently use Cogeco, and we actually recently last year, we have a secondary line in case of emergencies. We have Bell coming in from a separate area. So if there ever is at this building, the Cogeco line's cut, we can immediately move over to Bell. We do focus a lot on warm sites and hot sites off-site to make sure that we can be up and running as soon as possible should there be an emergency. And with regards to our security and whatnot, we are continuously monitoring and improving. That's a high priority, a hot topic all around the world right now with different hackers and situations happening at various companies and municipalities and government agencies. So that's always top of mind. And we are always monitoring, testing, and continuously improving to make sure that we can stay running.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
No other questions, comments, notices of motion. This might be the appropriate time to bring your notice of motion forward, or is it already? Okay, that's done. So I'm just going to remind council regarding the notice of motions that members of the public administration that last council meeting, Deputy Mayor Meloche gave notice of 2 motions for consideration at this meeting for a report on idling bylaw and a report regarding regulating Airbnbs. So Deputy Mayor Meloche, we're going to address the first one, which is the bylaw surrounding Airbnbs for the town of LaSalle.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you to the rest of council, Airbnbs are becoming extremely popular. We have several of them in the town of LaSalle. And as of right now, we have no regulations or bylaws in place. And other municipalities are starting to experience some issues. I've spoke a little bit with our police department about implications and problems that come with Airbnbs. So I think it's only appropriate that we sit down and consider what it means to the town of LaSalle, how they operate in our town, and any regulations that we should have in place to make sure that we are protecting the residents who do live here, who are living next door to those Airbnbs.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? We need a seconder. Councillor Dicho Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. And on the motion, creation of an idling bylaw to be used to educate the public on the environmental harms of idling. Deputy Mayor Meloche.
Thank you through you again to everyone here today. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Last meeting, I did mention that I realize enforcing this bylaw would be almost impossible, but that's not really the point of the bylaw. The bylaw is to educate our residents and for us all to become more aware of what we're doing to the environment. We're supposed to be the healthy, caring community. And in order to be doing that, we need to think of the small things that each of us can do to make it a better community to live in. And many of our communities do have this idling bylaw in place. And like I said, they also have acknowledged that enforcing it is almost impossible, but it's really about educating signage, especially in our school zones where we see 20 to 40 cars easily idling in the morning and at the end of the day for 10, 15, 20 minutes waiting for their kids. So it's an educational piece, but it's something that I think would be beneficial for our town.
Discussion, Councillor Reno.
Thank you. To you, Councillor, or excuse me, Deputy Mayor Malaj. My question just simply, are we just asking?
Excuse me, Mr. Reno, I'm sorry. I should get a seconder before discussion.
Okay, no problem.
So the seconder to discuss, Councillor Ekpata. Okay, Mr. Reno.
So my question is, are we just asking administration to bring back best practices so that we can form a bylaw? Are we asking for the bylaw committee for this to go straight to the bylaw committee for them to write a bylaw? I'm just wondering what we're asking for just before we ask for it.
Go ahead.
If I can just, the bylaw or the notion says, the administration prepares a report regarding the creation of an idling bylaw to be used to educate the public on the environmental harms of idling. So that's what Deputy Mayor is proposing.
So the answer is that we're going to put it to administration to bring back a report. We're not necessarily writing a bylaw at this point, correct? I want to make sure that I understand it before I vote on it.
Because it's saying the creation of an idling bylaw to be used. So it's creating a bylaw. So you're asking administration to write a bylaw so we can educate the people on idling. Councillor Ekpata.
I seconded the motion, and that's what I understand, your worship. And if I speak to a previous job I used to have, I know another municipality has an idling bylaw, and I know that it was enforced by default, I enforced it. So I understand from my perspective as well, that if we leave it to the leadership here to look at the other municipalities that have idling bylaws, see what they can do and come back with something, that's what I understand I seconded. So if that's in line with the deputy mayor, then that's what I understood it to be, your worship.
So we're clear. We're not asking administration to write a bylaw, just come back to report regarding an idling bylaw, which would incorporate the police's comments because you'd have to staff somebody at all these schools, et cetera. Okay. Deputy Mayor Malaj.
Yeah, I think I did reach out to administration ahead of time to kind of inquire how this process would work. And it's interesting. I read an example from another municipality where a neighbor called the town to complain about the fact that the work vehicle parked at her neighbor's house was running for a few hours, and it was a diesel truck and the fumes were blowing into her house. It was a nice day, windows were open, that kind of thing. And she said, what can we do? And the town said, nothing. We don't have a bylaw. And then when I started looking into other municipalities, and like I said, I realized how difficult it is to enforce it. And it's not really about enforcement, it's about education. And it's about, making our residents aware. I've done it. I catch myself doing it all the time going, why is my car running? It's 60 seconds they're in the store, shut it off. What's the big deal? So I don't know the process specifically that administration would take. I don't know if it makes sense to send it back for a report to see if it's feasible to make a bylaw, or if it's best to send it back to administration who's in charge of bylaws to sit down with the bylaw committee and then kind of go from there. I think maybe administration could give us a direction on what is best practice for them and make it easiest on them.
Mr. Militia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think from the perspective of if council is looking for a bylaw, we will go back and research and come back with a proposed bylaw. If council is looking for opportunities to educate and make aware to the public of the nuisances and the environmental impacts of idling, that is a bit of a different report in which a bylaw can be part of that, but it becomes a bigger report in terms of doing that. So again, if you're looking for a bylaw, if council in agreement that they want an idling bylaw,
then we will come back with a proposed idling bylaw.
Councillor Reno.
Sorry, one final point of clarification, just based on what Joe just said. You will come back with a proposed bylaw that we will then vote on. You are not creating a bylaw today that is going to go into effect. You will bring it back for us to vote on. Okay, I'm fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Chief, any comments?
There we go. I will agree with you that enforcing is difficult, not impossible. And from the police perspective, we don't separate education, awareness, and then enforcement. They're basically the three pillars of what we would base anything on when dealing with the public. So not to drag this on too long, but if we were to take a school situation where the parents are idling far too much and causing an issue, as Deputy Mayor stated, exactly, educate, make aware, we track who we've made aware, and then we would move to enforcement. Police can deal with bylaw enforcement if needed, and so we would address it as needed.
Okay, so administration will come back with a proposed bylaw. Then council will vote on it. Everybody's in agreement to what we're doing. Okay. On the motion. That carries. Thank you. Confirmatory bylaw, all three readings. Councillor Reno, Councillor Dicho Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. You have the scheduled meetings in July, August,